Welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It, the podcast to help you fix your broken relationships. And today I'm with Kyle Hargrove, our favorite licensed professional counselor. And we are talking about, three ways to control your life. And now that you've had a good laugh, or maybe you haven't, and I'm breaking some hard news to you. You can't control anything, like for real. If you haven't learned that yet, that means you're less than 25 years old, maybe 35 years old. I'm not sure. For me, it
Keep
was probably
going.
mid.
Keep
Yeah, I
going.
know, right? As I'm saying this, I'm going, nah, not. I think I was 45, maybe. Yet I don't know. Like the more kids you crank out, the less control you have, and you realize it. So anyway, we're talking about ways to realize if you have influence or where your influence is coming from and what to do about it so that you're on the healthier plane, healthier track in your life. Because if you're not doing this, if you're like focused on people pleasing or control and all that stuff, boy, are you miserable. And we want to help with that. And excuse me, but I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and it was not a vacation that I recommend to anybody. So we're going to be digging into this whole topic today. And before we go down that path, I want to send you over to our website, greaterimpact.org, O-R-G. And there's a little marriage assessment. If you want to know how big your mess is and what to do about it, go take that. And then we'll see what we can do to help you. But Kyle, this thing about influence and control, like it's a topic that both you and I are dealing with a lot of people struggling in this space. What say you, sir, about it?
I say you bought the t-shirt. I bought the parachute pants.
Ah, okay.
Um, I'd probably still have them if they still fit, but not so much, not anymore. But yeah, let's let's try in 30 minutes to break down what we can't break down in 30 years, or can't seem to break down in 30 years. Because in a way, at one level or another, the majority of problems that we have and issues that we face or don't face
Mm,
have along with them the feeling of being out of control. Because when we are in control, and that is a word with quotes, because none of us are completely, totally in control.
mhm.
Never have been, aren't now, and never will be. We're not capable of that kind of responsibility. And so we're going to fail. But we have, when things are not well, there's at some level or another, and usually at a pretty high level, the feeling of something here is out of control, and I would feel better if I could bring it into a more comfortable space for me.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, we don't often break problems and issues down. It's not that that's the only thing about it or the only thing we need to recognize or the only piece that we need to take action on, but it's almost always one of them.
Mm.
And so uh, I don't see a lot of therapists actually talking about that unless the client first says, I feel out of control. Now, maybe a therapist meets for a while with a client and they say, sounds to me like you have control issues. Being on the other side of that,
Mhm.
wanting to and needing to be in control of everything, every situation, every dynamic,
Yeah.
relationship. Um, and those people, there's a name for them, typically, if not now, later. And it's lonely.
Mm. Yeah, it does kind of drive people away. Yeah. And you feel like it's just so much work to be in a relationship with somebody that's like ramped up on that control.
That is not just a feeling.
Yeah, it's actual reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I remember periods of time where I was very stressed as a parent, just a lot of things happening. And I would regress into this awful version of myself where I just needed to tell everybody what to do all the time. And my children, I gave them early on, I gave them permission to point those things out to me because I didn't want to ruin their lives and their psychological development. And yeah, they would say to me things like, "Hey, mom, you know how you told me to let you know when it feels like you've got a lot of bossy going on?" Oh, yeah, that's happening again. Yeah. So, I'm guessing this topic's resonating with people quite a bit. Because who doesn't like to have control over something? And the illusion of control feels so safe, but it's really not reality. So where do you want to go with this today? Like what advice do you have for people to navigate this stuff? Because it's super unhealthy.
It is. And let's just be straight about control and how much of it we actually have. Because I don't think there are many of us that would disagree if this issue or this topic were given some time to have thought added. I don't think we disagree much at all that we're actually in control of very, very little
Mm-hmm.
in our life
Yeah.
or in a day. There are small, relatively inconsequential things that I am in control of. I'm in control of picking up my pencil, making it work. Yes, I use a pencil. I know that makes me a dinosaur.
I guess I
Um,
want to.
but making it work and write things. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the things we're involved in and engaged in and so forth, and just because we're not in control doesn't mean that it's not going to happen the way that we've had it planned.
Mm-hmm.
But planning and controlling aren't the same thing.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
We drew a line. I drew a line with a client just today. Uh, Plan, wrote up here, plan. And the line was straight. It was pretty. It was bold and it had an arrow on the bottom of it. And then over here we had the category reality. It looked like, a 15 months old scribble,
Uh-huh.
you know, a
Yep.
real skinny, scrawny line that crossed over itself several times and went the
Yep.
wrong way. And then, but it did end up at the bottom with an arrow on it. So, we got there, just not
Finally.
according to plan.
Right.
And this goes in lots of different directions. And where we came, is that there's a difference in a strategy and a plan. If you maintain your strategy, you will still likely accomplish your goal. But if you stick to the plan,
Mhm.
regardless of the circumstances that say you should adapt, you should flex, maybe you should quit.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
no, I'm going to stick to the plan, and this is how I'm going to do it. And this moves us into places and spaces of misery,
Yeah.
and I think it says a lot about what happens when we get hard headed about controlling things.
We
So
were
go
we
ahead.
were on our way to dinner. I think it was Sunday night. Celebrate our anniversary, 33 years. So yay. And yeah, there was a road that was closed. And it's not supposed to be. So and it was interesting because my husband and I are different people in that space. Um, I would have taken that as a suggestion because it had local traffic only on it, and I would have just gone down there to see if there was really is it really close? You know, could it potentially get through here anyway, even though it says it's closed? And he just turned around and went, took a shortcut some other direction and whatever. But and that was fine. And we still made it to the restaurant on time and all of that. But I literally had this brief moment where I was like, I kind of wanted to try my way and just, force this issue because I had a plan how we are going to get there. But like to your point of what we're talking about, like there were big cement things in the middle of the road down yeah, it's just like, no, it's closed. Turn around. You know, um, to your point, the plan needs to adapt to the reality of your circumstances, whether that's raising children or being married or running a company. Like sometimes the marketing doesn't work the way you thought it was going to.
Right.
Sometimes your teenager decides they absolutely hate speech and debate or the rowing team, which was the scholarship plan for college. It's like, okay, now what? So to your point, you need to be adaptable and all of that. How do we get to that place though? Like, how do we figure some of these things out to move from our obsession with having everything be just so to something more healthy?
I don't think there are any of us who can get to this place without experience. And when I say experience, I absolutely do mean experience in failing,
Mm,
experience in attempting and not succeeding,
mm,
and seeing that rather than displaying my imperfections on a regular basis. But instead of seeing it that way, seeing it from the standpoint of what can I learn
mhm.
from this experience. I thought I had it together. I thought I had a good plan. I thought this, I thought that, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And so once we have had the opportunity to gather and gain experience enough to start getting the idea that, you know what, I may not be as powerful in this situation in my life as I thought I was. And I'm certainly not as powerful in other people's lives as I maybe have thought I was. Because, like I
Mm,
said before, none of us are ever 100% in control of even our own selves 100% of the time or any percent of the time. What makes us think, as relatively intelligent beings with opposable thumbs, that we can control other people when we can't even control ourselves?
uh, yeah. Yep.
You know, so I've kind of come up with a plan that I use on occasion uh, with myself, and this is where it started. It started with me, and when many things in my life were not just not in my control, they were spinning furiously out and getting worse. And I didn't like me. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like my circumstances. I didn't like a lot of things at that point in time. But it also helped me understand that I needed to figure out a way to minimize the opportunities or the chances to feel that way again.
Mm.
So this is the really scientific and complicated plan that I came up with.
Okay, cool.
The first thing is I need to be able to know what it looks like when I'm doing okay, when I'm
Mm,
feeling pretty balanced, when I feel like the effort that I put in and the direction I put it in is good and is encouraging and is positive and is forward moving.
mhm,
I also, at the same time, need to recognize what it looks like when that's not the case.
mm,
What are some things that traditionally, historically, what the body of work says in my life when things are not okay? Because there's been a few times when that's the
mhm,
case. And I
mhm,
can go back and find some common threads and some commonalities in some of the ways that I felt and the things that were present at that time.
mhm,
And then, of course, we're going to see the good and the bad. Then we've got to have, just what I'm going to call an intentional, proactive plan of accountability.
mhm,
How I'm accountable to myself, and probably one of the most difficult things in the world to do is to let somebody in, to be vulnerable enough to let. It's 2 weeks in a row or two times in a row that I have invulnerated vulnerability or something like that. Messed up the word. One of the most difficult things for people to do is to make themselves available enough, transparent enough, and vulnerable enough to other individuals to say, okay, look, like me or not, this is it. This is
mhm.
the this is what I've learned about me. And some of it isn't pretty and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So when you see that happening in me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you, matter of fact, I'm tasking you
Mm-hmm.
to call me out,
Mm-hmm.
to stop me and gently, please
Yeah.
turn me, look me in the eye, grab me by the ears, whatever it takes, and say, you asked me to do this, so I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And remind me of what I am in my natural self and what I desire to be
Mm.
in the part of myself that allows God to help it
Yeah.
and
No,
create.
that's fair. That's good stuff. And you know, in thinking about my example with my kids, like wh when I first started doing that, I didn't know what it looked like to be balanced. I didn't realize it when I wasn't until the people I'd invited into my life told me accountable and be like, "Hey, mom, you remember when you invited us into this space to, like, you know, when you're being too bossy, you know, that, but that was helpful, right?" And then I started recognizing, like, there's a pattern to this. Like, for me, I didn't recognize that I was over committed and doing too much until I added one more thing. I could be operating at capacity, have margin, things would be great, and then I'd get sick. Or I'd take on one more responsibility that turned into something else, and then bam, it's all over suddenly, right? So as I've aged, and I see this with mature people, is that, and I've been working on this, is that there's a lot of margin. And I got to have a ton of margin in my life so that I can manage opportunity with going to the Father and saying, "Hey, do you want me doing this? Do you want, like, is this a thing you have planned for me or not?" Because I know what it looks like to be balanced now, and I hate it when I'm not.
Yeah.
I hate that.
But you know, this is probably as often as not the primary reason people get unbalanced is they get overburdened
Hmm.
and they get overextended. And, you know, I chatted with a client not long ago, and the thought came to my head, don't avail yourself when there is no availability there.
Yeah,
Okay. You are borrowed up at the bank. They're not going to loan you any more money,
yeah,
but you commit to something that's going to require that money anyway.
yeah. Ugh.
Okay. And that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm thankful right now that I have a lot of margin in my life because I absolutely need it. I've had pneumonia and a sinus infection for 2 months. I don't have the energy that I had before. Like, every day is just walking around with
Mhm.
lead on my body. I'm just exhausted. And so I'm getting done what I'm supposed to, keeping my commitments. But there's no way I could handle anything else. Like, there's
Yeah.
just zero.
Yeah.
And I can't, I'm so thankful, but at the same time, you know, I feel like, and the Lord and I are having discussions about what's this pneumonia about? Like, why are we doing this? And he pointed out to me today when I was fussing again about it. He's like, "Nina, this isn't any different than what you ask your clients to do. It's messy and hard in the middle. You got a messy and hard. And part of it's your own fault. Like, I stopped taking vitamin D. I ran out. I forgot to go buy some. And then, yeah, I know, right? And I'm 57. That's stupid
And
because
then
you
you
don't have,
didn't drink your milk.
well, I don't drink milk. I don't like milk. Anyway, I know. So I get my protein elsewhere and my calcium
Hmm.
K. And hey, look, Dad, it's all good. Except, well, actually, it's not. So to your point, you're not wrong. Yeah, because here I am, like, and that's the evidence of that. So potentially, but you know, the whole thing is that you got to know when you're out of balance.
Hmm.
Well, it's sometimes it's a small thing that gets you out of balance. It's just a small decision that you don't think will impact much. Oh, I'll get that next week, and then I completely forgot. So I went probably 2 or 3 weeks without vitamin D, and then got sick. And it should be a small thing, but it's not, right? And I think that when you, like, I can't control my health, you know, to your point earlier, it's like, can I control that? No, I can't. And I hate that.
Yeah. And it's
But
interesting that you bring that up because I remember um, I was in a very, very large, I'm going to call it a mansion. It wasn't a house, preparing to be a part of a wedding that was being done in this house. And they had massive windows in the back
mm,
and these huge curtain and shade things that were all connected by a series of rods and rails and so forth. And they weren't just straight across. And in the middle of setting up for the wedding, a cat in the house got spooked by something, came flying through the house, leaped a long way, landed about halfway up the curtain
oh
on one of the
no.
corners,
Oh,
and the whole thing, one piece at a time, like there were explosions in it, came
oh
crashing down.
no. Oh.
So just one cat getting caught in the curtain brought the entire window system down.
Oh
So
my
you're
word.
talking about the one little thing. You did the
Yeah.
one little thing, and it
Yeah.
just cascades or
Uh-huh.
cascaded down, I guess. But it builds, and it can just connect itself to something else. And it seems like one little thing happens, and nothing is right. Nothing is good. And I experience things when I'm not balanced, like uh, or when I'm not balanced, like, I'm tired, I'm irritable, I'm lazy, and I'm motivated, I'm selfish, I don't care. It seems like everything I do is a chore,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody I have to deal with is a problem.
Yep.
When those things are happening in my world,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not difficult to figure it out and to see it.
Yep.
I know that I'm not okay. I'm allowing something, or have allowed something, to influence me,
Yep.
to control me, in other words,
Mm-hmm.
way too strongly and way too much in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And that's being human. We all fall prey to that this side of heaven. Yeah, I think the only antidote for this, and I've been annoyed for the last month that I'm sick, and every time I talk to the father about it, which is almost every day, he's like, "So what are you grateful for?" And and I fight back on the daily with gratitude. We saw a baby squirrel today at our meeting. We meet over at my friend Bonnie's house, and she's got these beautiful bay windows. And we sit in there, and it's, oh my goodness, she has this beautiful garden out back. And there was a baby squirrel, and it literally filled my heart with joy because I'd never seen a baby squirrel, well, that was, covered with fur and out interacting in the world, that my dog had not treed and was, full on terror, or that wasn't half dead in my backyard that I was trying to rescue. Like
I was
it's
just thinking, Bonnie doesn't have 4 dogs and 4 cats.
no, she doesn't.
Yeah,
No,
that's not a thing here because we
yeah,
do have those dogs.
yeah. And same for me, right? So it's just a joy, and I felt the Father's pleasure when I noticed that. I just and I thought, oh yes, this is me connecting with your creation and just an awareness and appreciation for who you are in a small thing like this. And that's how, like, I've got probably another month of recovery from this if I just look at biology. And I am getting better, but the facts are that I can still mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally be okay enough. Maybe not my best self, but if I lean on him, like that's the only strategy that I've had that is actually working to keep me from destroying everything in my life. Because I'm not good at being sick, not good at
That's
being
great.
tired. I'm grumpy. I
Well,
just
I
want
think to simplify what we're talking about, I'm going to pick one thing, and I want you to pick one thing. Okay.
okay.
I'm going to pick one thing that when this is happening with consistency, I know that more so than not, I'm in a good place.
Mm,
Okay. And I'm
mhm.
going to tell you, it's not what probably most people would think of, but it's something that when when I'm doing this consistently and I'm getting something from it, I am I feel pretty good about where I am
Mhm.
reading.
Oh, yes.
Because
Good
when
one.
I'm not in a good place, I don't read.
Hmm.
I watch TV instead because it doesn't require as much effort.
Oh, that's rich. Yeah, that's rich right there. Yeah. And for me,
Not
it's
that does not include sports.
oh,
Sports
you're
don't
taking
count.
that, they don't count.
Not in this situation. No.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the clarification. Oh my
I'm
word.
watching that regardless.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Whether it's balanced or not, I'm watching sports. Okay. That is yours. You can have that one because I don't, that's not mine. But for me, it's my morning routine. Um, and I've got a real solid one that just fills me up in multiple ways, also waters and feeds chickens and livestock and connects me with God and the land here that I just, and then the word, right? So
Mhm.
that whole process. And when I'm unbalanced, like I had a really bad day a couple of weeks ago where all I did was get up, go throw water and food at and then went back to bed. Like there was no routine. I don't even remember half of that. It's just, you're not going to starve. You're not going to dehydrate. Here you go. The end. And I went back to bed. That's a great thing. So I got one for you. What's a symptom of being unbalanced? So you got a thing we're not doing. What's a symptom of being unbalanced for you?
An irritable countenance.
Yeah, why is that mine too? Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
probably a lot of people. Yeah.
Because most of the time when things are good and when I'm feeling good and when I'm doing life the way I think God intended for me to do life,
Yeah.
when I'm allowing Him to be my influencer
Uh,
rather than other things and situations and maybe even money and things that we all get caught up in. I'm not an irritable person. I'm not easy to irritate to begin with, but my
mhm.
countenance is usually pleasant and friendly and uh,
Yeah.
on occasion funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And that would be a good cue for us, all people, to when you're this, check that. Are things out of balance? Are we saying yes to too much? Are we thinking we should be controlling? What's your stress like? All those kinds of things. So, yeah.
a story just occurred to me that that may hold some sway here, and I'd like to make this my parting shot today, if that's okay.
Yeah. Bring it on.
There's a little girl, maybe she was 3 or 4. And she was sitting in the car seat of the car driving, and uh, her parents were Christians and believers and attended church with their children and so forth. And the daddy had picked her up from kindergarten or daycare, and they were driving home. And on the way home, she said, "Daddy," he said, "Yes, honey." She said, "I want to give my heart to Jesus." And he, you know, shook his head for a minute and thought. He said, "Really?" She says, "Yes, Daddy. We've been talking about that in Sunday school and at home, and I want to give my heart." Now she's 4.
Right.
It's potentially a bit early, but just the thought that she's thinking on these things was just filled Daddy up.
Yeah.
A few seconds later, she said, "Daddy," and he said, "What, honey?" She says, "I want to give my eyes to Jesus too."
Mm.
And he said, "Oh, honey, that is so sweet. Jesus wants your eyes." You know what, Daddy? What, honey? I'm going to give my nose to Jesus too. So now he knows that she's not quite there, but that she's thinking along the lines. And he said,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's so sweet. I'm sure God would love your nose." And she says, "But Daddy," he said, "Yes, honey." She said, "I'm not giving my feet to Jesus." And he said, "Well, honey, why won't you give your feet to Jesus?" And she says, "Because I want to go where I want to go.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
man,
Yeah.
who of us are not like that? We want to go where we want to go. We want to do what we want to do. We want to be what we want to be. And we want to control it all, And I can't accept the possibility even that when we are in that mode and when that is our MO, that it ends in disappointment and it ends in a lack of meeting any expectations that are important to us and absolute abject misery.
Yep.
So sometimes the way to get where we want to go is to give up how we would choose to get there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. That ties right into the diagram at the beginning, the straight line versus the
Yeah.
weavy path.
Yeah.
It usually is the way.
It's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine
I've
too.
seen every part of that path.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
ugly.
if we're honest, I think we all have. Just how resistant to it have we been, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, that's rich, Kyle. Thank you so much. So, if we live in Texas and we want to reach out to you, what's the fastest way of making that a thing?
Fastest way to reach out to me is just to say hi. That would be awesome. Somebody just wanted to say hi. But if you have anything else that you'd like to comment on or discuss, you could reach me at Kyle Hargrove LPC at gmail.com.
Mhm.
And if you're looking for, you're pretty sure that you'd like to seek out cognitive behavioral therapy and with a therapist such as myself, then you can find me on headway.co and at helloalma.com. And
Awesome.
would love to interact with you in any way that you have a need.
And if you're getting this by email, you can also just reply and we'll make sure Kyle gets it. So we're so grateful that he's part of the Greater Impact team in terms of our podcasting crew. It's just a joy to pick his very learned brain over some of these things and discover what he has learned, what God's taught him, and just follow the Lord in a different way or a better way, I guess is the way to say that. So hopefully this blessed you today. Be sure to reach out if you have questions. And we want to encourage you to subscribe, hit that subscribe button down below, and be sticking around for our next video on conflict because you'll learn some ways of navigating that in a way that's not so stressful. We'll talk soon.